Hey there, and welcome back to Stupid Game Experiments. My current stupid experiment is building the same game in 3 of the most popular game engines, Unity, Unreal, and Godot. The game is called SH++, and it's a cross between N++ and Asteroid. This is my weekly recap video covering all the development that's happened in the last week, but I also put up a new video every single day, so make sure you hit that subscribe button to see all the latest updates. This week, I'm going to divide my recap into 2 separate sections. The first half will cover the development of SH++ this week, and the second half will cover my observations on the individual game engines. So without further ado, let's talk about SH++. I started out this week's development by giving the game some eye candy by adding some particles to the player's ship. The first particles I added were to create flames shooting out of the ship whenever the player hit the acceleration button. This gives the players visual feedback on their actions. This is extra important when the ship first starts moving because it takes a little time for the ship to build up velocity. The second particles were to create an explosion effect when the player died. This effect is mostly just eye candy, but it also makes dying feel that much more substantial. Once I had the particle effects done, I moved on to creating the first 2 enemies. The first enemy was a simple landmine, or I guess space mine in this case. When the mine is activated, the player dies on contact. However, there is also an inactive mode that becomes activated after the player flies over it. Neat Games recommended in the comments of that video that I should have the spikes collapsed in inactive mode, so I gave it a try and it looks great, making the activation feel even more impactful. The second enemy I created is a hunter enemy. It starts out inactive and doing nothing. However, when the player gets close enough, it starts chasing the player down for as long as the player stays in range. The basic setup for the hunter is done, but when I get into playtesting, I'll have to adjust the range and the speed of the hunter more. I want the effect to be an enemy that is fast enough to chase the player down, but slow enough that the player can run away if they act quickly. That was all the progress I made this week towards developing the game. I think it's coming along well, and I already know what to work on next, so progress should continue steadily for at least another week. Moving on to the game engines. I'm going to start with lessons learned from last week. First, KH Play was cool enough to point out where to find the features I was missing in Godot. The first of these was the screen resize options, which are awesome in Godot. The second was that a lot of the methods I was looking for are actually attached to some of what I would consider basic variable types like vector2s. These methods came in really handy this week, saving me a lot of time coding for the enemies. I'm actually more positive on Godot this week than I was last week because of this. Obviously, at some point I'm going to run into features that are missing in Godot compared to the other 2 game engines. However, right now, I would say it's holding its own in terms of 2D game development. My other lessons learned this week both come from Unity. First, I added the Script Instructor 3 plugin to my project, and the difference is night and day. It's basically an IDE in Unity, and it makes development a million times easier. Fortunately, I bought this plugin as part of a bundle a while back, so it probably cost me at most $1 or $2. But really, this is a feature Unity should just add to the game engine unless they plan on going all in with the full visual editor the way Unreal has. My second lesson learned in Unity is similar to my lesson with Godot. Last week, I talked about making reusable instances in Unity, and this week, I figured out how to make this happen with prefabs. However, trying to figure out how to make prefabs work was also my biggest headache this week. I'm still not sure I have it figured out because what I do have figured out seems like a horrible design setup to me. Let me explain what I mean, and maybe someone will be able to explain what I'm missing in the comments below. My problem is that while prefabs allow you to create reusable objects, they seem to be missing features that you would normally want in reusable objects. First, prefabs don't have any way to attach game logic to them. Instead, you have to create scripts for components and then attach the components to the prefab. The problem with this is that every individual component needs to create connections to any other component in order to work with it. This gets even worse when you can't have 2 of the same components like collision on a prefab. So you have to use nested prefabs and then make connections between all the nested components. At the moment, my partial solution is to create a master script for each prefab to be used with only that prefab that will handle all the connections and the game logic. Another problem with prefabs is that they can't inherit from each other. In programming, a child class inherits all the functionality of its parent class and then adds functionality on top of it. This is extremely useful when you have code that is the same for a bunch of objects such as enemies because it means you only have to update the parent class instead of updating all the individual child classes. Without it, you have to update every prefab individually. Unity does have inheritance for its scripts, so a possible solution is to just use a single script for each prefab and have that script add all the additional components. After some testing, I found that adding the execute in edit mode tag allows the GUI for the component to be available as well. So for the moment, it seems like the best solution is to create a master script for each class. Add that single script to a prefab, and then let the script add any additional components and coordinate between those components. While this is a solution, it feels more like I'm trying to hack my way around the engine to get it to do what I want, rather than using the system as intended to get the best results. If someone has a better solution, I would love to hear it in the comments below. That's all I really have about the game engines this week. I know I didn't cover Unreal Engine, but nothing really special happened with it this week. Really, the only thing of note is that I haven't had any problems using it for 2D development yet. At some point, I'll probably have to do a video on 2D development in Unreal, but that will probably wait until I've finished this project. So that wraps up this week of development for SH++ in Unreal, Unity, and Godot. If you're enjoying these weekly recaps, make sure you let me know by hitting that like button. Also, don't forget that I put up new videos every single day, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. If you need to get caught up on previous videos, there's a link to the full playlist in the description below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.